Good evening. Shir Nach, Sefer Yehoshua, Kapitel Yud Gimel. We finished Kapitel Yud Gimel last week. We just read through the Psukim, and we said we will be mashli many things that we learned in Kapitel Yud Gimel. As we said, Kapitel Yud Gimel is mainly going on Moshe Rabbeinu's Chalukah of Bnei God, Reuveni and Godi, Bnei God, Bnei Reuven, what they got the in Chatzi Shevet HaManashe, what they got the Ever Hayarden. They got part of the Ever Hayarden. So there's a few things we should speak about. When we go back to Shevet Levi, and first let's speak about what we see also after we spoke about Shevet Levi, Saya Pasuk Yudalid, right? And also the last Pasuk, Shevet Levi Lo Nosan Nachalo, right? Lo Nosan Nachalo Ishe Hashem, Elokei Yisrael Hu Nachalosoi Kasher Diberloi. The last Pasuk and the Perek is also Shevet Pasuk Lamed Gimel, Shevet Levi Lo Nosan Moshe Nachalo, Hashem Elokei Yisrael Hu Nachalosom Kasher Diberloim. Again, double the lashon, kima the same lashon, a little bit different. You see what's the difference between them. And Moshe Rabbeinu gives them the Mativ Bnei Reuven, the Mishpechoisom, as we see beforehand. We mentioned the Ramban and Parshas Pinchos, who has a suffix, or Shed of the Mishpechoisom and the Chalukas Haaretz. If they say that after they divided the Shvotim, so it goes the Nachlo goes the base office, it goes the Yode Mitzrayim, it goes the Yode Mitzrayim, or that this is going to be Lemishpechoisom, that means every family of the Shevet. Every family of the Shevet. Ve'ilei Magvul, the Pasuk Tezayin, right? And the Ramban and Parshas Matos said that the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't mention that he was mechalek among them this land. And he's going to give each one of the two Shvotim this chelek b'fnei atzmoi. But he said that he gave to them the Chatzi Shevet HaMenashe from the malchus of these two melochim, and we find in Sefer Dvorim, that's in Parshas Matos. Sefer Dvorim, we find that he gave Chatzi Shevet HaMenashe a chelek b'fnei atzmoi. They also got a chelek, and what we saw that the Torah is marich more than I think we saw Shitas Rashi in the end of Parshas Dvorim that Chatzi Shevet HaMenashe they got Eretz Oig because it's Michlal Eretz. Shiva Amim will go promised, Avram Avinu got promised, Masha'inken, the Guaya says that they took the Eretz Sichoin, and that was not part of the Nachlo of the Eretz, it was not part of the Eretz Shiva Amomim. Lefishitas Rashi, so we say that the Gvul of Chatzi Shevet HaMenashe and the Gvul of the other Shvotim were Chilukei Dinim between the Gvul and the Eretz Shiva Amim. It's a little bit different than anything else. And we saw also in the Hemshech of the Pasuk speaks about is Bilam ben Be'oil, right? He speaks about the Milchome. So he says also, V'es Bilam ben Pasuk Chov Beis, V'es Bilam ben Be'oil, HaKoisem hogu bnei Yisrael b'cherev el chalaleim. The Sifri brings that Rav Nosson Oimer bebezdin horogu. Where they killed Bilam ben Be'oil, they killed them in Bezdin. That's what the Sifri says. Because where there's the Rai from the Sifri brings the Rai from our Pasuk. It says in our pasuk, "V'es Bilam ben Be'oil hakoisem og bnei Yisrael b'cherev," and what means where's the raya? So the Amik Dovel, the Netziv, brings that it says over there hakoisem. What's the pshat hakoisem? Hakoisem means that they were done Bilam ben Be'oil as a mechashev, as a sorcerer, and that's why we call him hakoisem. And that's what we say. That Rav Nosson says. That and it's Rav Nosson Shitosei. Rav Nosson says that the Ben Noach is Huzar al Akishuf. Is Huzar al Akishuf. Lazoroson Zui Misoson. How go your Ben Noach when we kill a Ben Noach, as we know Sanhedrin, always be Saif. Always be Saif. So go Bacherev. And this is what we see over here. That he says, "V'es Bilam ben Be'oil hakoisem ogu Bacherev." And this is Dafke Bacherev because go always we kill be Saif. The Sifri thing. The Gemara Sanhedrin and Avkuvav, the Gemara says that they were Mekayim Arba Mitzvos Bezdin. Skilles, Reife, Ereg, and Chenek. The Marshav there says that they knew that in all of the Dalet Mitzvos Bezdin, he was Chayev, Bilam was Chayev in all of the Arba Mitzvos Bezdin. And that's why they were Mekayim in all of these Mitzvos. If we know the Gemara beginning of Sanhedrin, the Gemara says that what? Gemara Daf Pei Aleph. The Gemara said that if a person was Mischayev two Mitzvos Bezdin, what they give him? The chomo, right? If he was over Avir, it's chayav for each one of Misas Bezdin. Which Misas Bezdin you're going to give him? The Gemara says you give him the all chomo. So why we done him in all Arba Misas Bezdin? You should be done him in the chomo shaboy. And the Arba Misas Bezin is only for Klal Yisrael. As we said, Ben Noach is always Ben Misa Saib. So what's the pshat that in Bilam Ben Be'oyer, if we go to feed the Gemara in Sanhedrin, they killed the Arba Misas Bezin. Now Rashi says, but then Sanhedrin, how exactly they done all of the Arba Misas Bezin? He says Rashi, Tolu, they hung him. They tzitu eish, and they made a fire on the dirt, sleeping where they hung him. And chotu es roishoi, venofal. Then they cut his head and it fell into the fire. And Mele, that was also the chenek, because when they cut his head, that was also the chenek, and he fell together with the thing. So the Maharsha over there fragt that skila and sreife was after the misa, because what's the skila? When he fell into the fire, and the sreife, what he got burned. This was after they cut his head. After they cut his head, after they behead him, that's already after le'achal misa. Le'achal misa, what shayach skila and sreife? But it's also, yeah, it's not. But it assembles some sreife. So the Gemara in Sanhedrin, in Daf Mem Gimel, the Gemara says, "Vayirgemu oisoi be'even," that if he died be'even achas, yotzo. Right? If he died be'even achas, yotzo. Oisoi even. So the Gemara learns that if he died be'even achas, that's what it was yotzo the choiva of the skila. Lekatchile. What do we need? That we need over there yad that you need over there each one, right? You need two avonim. So the kiyum of the din of skila. But if you don't have, so if you said if he died with one evan, so that's going to be good enough. So it's not shy. So how we make kind this kiyum mitzvah skila? How do we do the skila? When he done already he died already. He's not shy because if it's shy by skila, even after he's dead, so say okay here, be mekayim no chayeven. Mo says no. Two avonim, or if it done, he died after one evan, so you mekayim the even without this. You could still be mekayim, but you see from me, it's not shayach kiyum mitzvahs skile after the person is already dead. That's it. There's the Rama. The Rama over there explains that we thought that after they killed him, be'even, maybe you should actually again vayirgem oisoi biroigem and ba'avonim, throwing them more stones, because you could be mekayim skile with avonim le'achal miseh. And this what we say, Elamai, that's what you say, no. The Gemara mitzvah is, afilu be'even achas, even though you still could be mekayim. This is the Rama, so it's very good with what we say over here, that it could be mekayim. Let's speak about, as we said, the last posuk in the Perek, the last posuk, we speak about Shevet Levi. Shevet Levi. Shevet Levi did not get a nachlo. Why didn't they get a nachlo? Because Hashem unachlosoi, they didn't get a nachlo in Eretz Yisrael. We can see that they got Orei Miklod. There is Orei Alevim, what we will see Eretz Hashem later on in Sefer Yehoshua, what they got. Aber Shevet Alevi lo inosan Moshe lenachlo. What's the difference between the first time when it says in Pasuk Yudaled and the last Pasuk and the Pasuk Lamed Gimel, what says the Shevet Alevi lo inosan Moshe lenachlo? So the Malbim explains that in Pasuk Yudaled, he said that they shouldn't, the Levim don't get a chelek like the rest of the Shvatim. And over here he said that even though they got certain cities, right? They got Orim Losheves. Aber this was, we could think it's a Nachlo. But this we say, no, that this was not part of the Nachlo, as we say, like a goyrol of every Shevet. Just what this the Orei Levim was, the Levim from that Shevet, as we can see, there was a little bit of a different Chaluk over there. After the Chaluk of all the Shvatim, then Klal Yisrael gave from their own Nachlo, they gave the Shevet Levi. So this was not the same type of Nachlo. So the Malbim to explain the difference between the Nachlo of Shevet Levi, what we said beforehand, and what we see over here, the Nachlo of Shevet Levi in the Pasuk, in the last Pasuk. We have to understand, L'Shevet Alevi, or we go back to Pasuk Yudaled, Rak L'Shevet Alevi lo inosan Nachlo. All the Shvatim also didn't get a Nachlo, an Ever Yarden. Or where are we talking about Ever Yarden? So why are you saying only Shevet Reuben, God, Chatzi Shevet HaMenashe, they are the only ones that are getting a Chelek and Ever Yarden? Why are we saying over here, Rak Shevet Levi lo inosan Nachlo? We're talking about Ever Yarden. Yeah. Oh. But so, but if we're learning so the rest of the Shvatim, why are we saying only Shevet Levi didn't get the Nachlo? Not only Shevet Levi, all of them didn't get the Nachlo. So why are we saying Dafka Shevet Levi? Because Shevet Levi don't have a Chelek in Eretz Yisrael. So where they don't have. They didn't get the same thing like everything. So the Rambam. Let's look at the Rambam. The Rambam says in Ilchot Shmita v'Yovel, Perek Yud Gimel, says the Rambam. Iroeli, Shein hadevorim. We talk about a thing. Elo ba'oretz shenichreso oleo bris. לאברום, ליצחק וליעקב. ויהושע בניהם ונסחל כליהם. אבל שאר כל הארצות, שכובש מלך ממלכי ישראל, any king will take any piece of land. So then, what's going to be the din? הרי הכהנים והלווים באויסון הארצות וביזוסון ככל ישראל. This din, what we say that, לשבט לוי לא ינוסה מוישה נחלו, and Hashem הוא נחלו סוי, and Shevet Levi don't get part of the Nachlo, this is Davke, the Chelek, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov to get the Chelek in Eretz Yisrael. But anything, any Melech from Malchei Eretz Yisrael will take a bit of land, and himself, he was kovish a bit of land, definitely also Shevet Levi get a part of this. Says the Briskerov, Ala Torah, in Parshas Matos, that he says as when Moshe Rabbeinu gave Bnei Gad uvnei Reuven, it was not from the Eretz Shenichreso leobris. And mitzad adin, it would belong to all Klal Yisrael. Also the Kohanim should have gotten the Rambam. Also the Kohanim should get a chelek in it. Just a was of a chidush in the halacha that if they're going to be mekayim the tnai, they will get the chelek mitzad Yerusha Sa'oretz. But if they will not be mekayim the tnai, Bnei Gad uvnei Reuven, all of the Mareches Atnoim we learn out from over there. So this would be like any other Yerusha of Eretz Yisrael, where B'mokoi Shelo Nichras Boi Bris, and also there, the Koyanim would get. Lefi them, we could say that what? That we didn't have the Chidush, this Chidush le'aloche, that they should get the Chelek to be Mafkia, the Schus of the Shevet Levi. What's shak to be Mafkia the Schus? And only to be Mafkia the Schus of the rest of Klal Yisrael, they get the Chelek in Eretz Yisrael. So you get in the Chelek in Ever HaYarden. But Shevet Levi, they don't get the Chelek in Eretz Yisrael, so maybe they can't be Mafkia the Schus, what they have over here in the Chelek of Ever HaYarden. And that's what we're saying over the Pasuk. No, that the Chiddush was that also Bnei Gad Bnei Reuven are getting the Chelek. They're getting it at Kedei Kach, like in Eretz Yisrael. Shevet Levi don't have a Chelek, also over in Ever HaYarden, so we're got Chelek. And that's the Shevet Levi, Lo Nos Anachlo, that's the Chiddush of what we're learning out from this Pasuk. And that's what the Rambam teaches us. And the Rambam teaches us, the Rambam in Perek Yud Gimel, in Ilchot Shmita v'Yovel, and Halacha Yud, the Rambam says that Kol Shevet Levi Muzorim, Shelo Inchalu B'Eretz Canaan. It's Azhora for Shevet Levi, as we say over here, that not to be Noichel, not to get the Nachla in Eretz Canaan, and says the Rambam, V'cheinem Muzorim Shelo Itlu Chelek Babiza. Not to take when they go out to battle, not to take from the booty, anything. That's also Chelek of what Klal Yisrael or Muzo not to give, and Klal Yisrael, sorry, Shevet Levi also have a Chelek not to give. And Halacha Yud Aleph says the Rambam that this is only, as we mentioned before, in Be'eretz Shenichreso Leo Bris Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov, but anywhere else, right? If Yovo Melech Mimalchei Yisrael and he will be Koivesh, Harei HaKoyanim v'Alevim Bo'ison Arotzos u'Bizoson Kechol Yisrael, they could collect anything. Now, what's the pshat over here in the Rambam that there's a isur, not stam. There's a azore. There's a isur for Ben Levi to take a chelek and a nachlo from the bizo and a chelek and a nachlo from Chalukas Eretz Yisrael. Why? Explains the Briskerov that the Rambam, the pshat and the isur and the Rambam that the Ben Levi can't take a chelek is only in Eretz Yisrael. What? Mischalek l'shvotim. But everywhere else that they don't say a din chaluke l'shvotim, there was no din chaluke l'shvotim. So then it's no problem. Then a Ben Levi doesn't have a Isur to be choyle, because the Isur is only when Klal Yisrael, when all of the shvotim have a din chaluke. So then Shevet Levi don't have a din chaluke. But everywhere else where Klal Yisrael don't have a din chaluke, so also Ben Levi doesn't have a din chaluke. He doesn't have a din chaluke. Maybe he could say Shevet Levi. We talk about Shevet Levi. We know about Shevet Levi many things. And let's speak about Shevet Levi, because especially when we speak about over here, we come to Yehoshua now. We're going to start to speak about all of the matos, all of the 9.5 other shvotim would get the chalukah in Eretz Yisrael. And the rest of the Shvatim, and we can speak about also as they spoke last week. Rabbi Hema about the Shvatim Bichlal, as the parshas of the Shvatim and Shevet Levi. And as we know also a little bit, Chanukah has to do with Shevet Levi, Yehoshua Shevet Yehuda, right? The Chashmonoim. So, but first, let's speak about Shevet Levi. So as we said, Ula Shevet, the last pasuk, Kapitel Yud Gimel, Ula Shevet Alevi, Lo Inosan Moshe Nachlo, Hashem Elohei Yisrael, Hu Nachalosam, Kasher Diber Lohem. Says the Rambam, so let's read out the Rambam again in Perek Yud Gimel, Icho Shmita V'Yovel, Perek Yud Gimel Alocha Yud Aleph, Roeli, She'ein Advorim Amurim, Elo, says the Rambam, Be'eretz Sheniches Oleo Bris Avrom Yitzchok V'Yaakov, דווקא וירושעו ביניהם ונסחל כלהם. אבל שאר כל הארץ שכובש מלך ממלכי ישראל, הרי הכהנים והלווים ואויסון הארץ וביזוסון ככל ישראל. What's the pshat? So steht in the Sforim on the pshat, on the pasuk, what we read 2 weeks ago, פרשת שבוע, ויקץ יעקב ומשנוסוי ויאמר אוכן יש השם במקום הזה, ואנוכי לא יודעתי. What means ve'onoichi lo yodati? What's the ve'onoichi lo yodati? Ve'onoichi lo yodati, and ve'onoichi lo yodati means that I know, and I recognize, like the onoichi, the selfishness, the why? Because there's such a galus shchina. So Meile ve'onoichi lo yodati. So he was mevatel himself. The onoichi lo yodati because there's right, is always the Sforim say, they learn out from over here, that is always the person, Gadlus Aboire keneged Katnus Odom. It always goes, Ze keneged Zet. They explain, V'anoichi lo yodati, because I see Azai is Galus HaShchina, so my Metzias is battle. The Anoichi is lo yodati. As they state also, right, we know from the Sifrei Kabbalah, that there is the Midas, the Oilemes, Elyoinim, that there is no Metzias Bechlal, and slowly, there's whatever is further away from the oil Pnei Hashem. So we have we have more the Metzias in the world. So V'anoichi lo yodat. There's no thing. Okay. Shevet Levi is Miloshin. We look at the Psukim, right? When Leah has Levi, Apam Ilove Ishi Eli. That's Shevet Levi. Shevet Levi is called Apam Ilove Ishi Eli. And Shevet Levi, as we know, is Nivdal, different than any other Shevet because Lamoid Uleshores Uledovko boy, right? And that's the Lashon Levaye. What's the Lashon Levaye? The come together. So Yischabus Kivyochel with the Rebbe Shalom. And they don't have a Chelek and Nachlo to themselves. Hashem Hu Nachalosam. Because they are so non to the Rebbe Shalom, the Iskarvus and the Dveikus in the Rebbe Shalom, so they don't have a Metzias, as we said. They don't have a Metzias. Because they are misbattle, right? They become themselves the Rebbe Shalom, the Anhog of the Rebbe Shalom. But this is Davke with the Mitzaref when Amokim Goyrem. Mokim Shashchine Shoiro. When is this? Eretz Asher Eine Hashem Reikecho Bo. This is Davke in Yisrael over there. You could come to Bittul HaMetzias. As we know, there is also the Sforim talk about this, and Agre Dekale in the beginning of Parshas Vayeshev this week, in Agre Dekale, the Bnei Yissaschar and Sefer Agre Dekale, he speaks about in the beginning of this week's Parsha. I mean, we went last week, Parshas Vayeshev, that Canaan, what's the Lashon of Canaan? Canaan is the Lashon Achnoi. Achnoi is Batlus, and that's why the Rambam says that these things of Shevet Levi don't have a Nachlo. It's Davke where? Davke in Eretz Yisrael. That the person fakert Davke in Eretz Yisrael, they could have the koyach of Shevet Levi. Davke the Shevet Levi have the koyach. We know the Ramban, but let's start before the Ramban. Let's start a little bit backwards. We know Klal Yisrael. There's different ma'amodos, different, as the Mishnah says, Asoro Yuchsin Olu Mi Bovel, right? Kohane, Levie, Soele, Chalole, Geire, Mamzeire, Nesine, Shtuke, Asufe, right? Many different Charura. The Mishnah speaks about a person in Klal Yisrael is born with a certain yichus. What is the yichus of Shevet Levi? And now we have also different yichus. We have also a melucha, right? A melech could be only a melech ben melech. It goes with Yerusha. Now, throughout the Bayis Rishon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises David, right? David HaMelech has the Chutz Matalia. Chutz Matalia, as we spoke, Demolts, right? Be'arichas Gedoyla, Melochim Beis and Perek Yud Aleph. We spoke about Atalia, why it was different, but it goes Doyer Achar Doyer through the whole Bayis Rishon when we talk about Malchei Beis David, yeah? Malchei Yehuda, not Malchei Yisrael, Malchei Yehuda. Part of the Melochim, even though they are not the biggest tzaddikim, it's a mamshich. This hemshech of Malchus Beis David is because the promise Loyu Lezaroi, Lezera David Avdi, right? Igun Kashemesh Lenegdi. It's always Yada Avtoche that this is by Sheni. It goes over to the Chashmonoim. Chashmonoim, they are Kohanim. They are from Shevet Levi. They are the ones that rebel against the Yevonim. They are the ones that are doing the war against the Yevonim. And after the victory, Rabim Beyad Me'ati, Zaidim Beyad Toirim, Shoy Beyad Tzadikim, as we said in Alanisim, right? It's for how many years? 103 years. They are ruling Klal Yisrael for 103 years. This is in the times of Baisheni. Why this rebellion against the Yevonim happened Dafka by the Chashmonoim? That they were Koyanim, they were from Shevet Levi. Lichoire, who should be the head of the Mered? Yehuda. Malchus Beis David, Shevet Yehuda. Why suddenly over here, Shevet Levi, they're the ones to be the ones that taking over the Anhoga. The Anhoga should always be Shevet Levi. Shevet Yehuda, not Shevet Levi, right? We know Malchus Beis David depends. Oh, so Malchus Beis David doesn't depend only by sitting in the land, right? The Anhoga, Be'emes is, right? It's always, right? As we know, the Gemara in Sanhedrin, the Gemara says, Omar Arai, the boy Meidan Dina. And if he had a mistake, what we say over there, right? He has to take Reshus from Reish Galusa. Who's the Reish Galusa? Says the Gemara. Kedetanya. Lo Yosu Shevet mi Yehuda, Eilu Roshi Galuyoi Shebe Bovel. שרוידים את ישראל בשבט ומחויקים מי רגלוב אלו בני בנו של הלל שבלמדים תורה ברבים. This is not דווקא in Eretz Yisrael. This is afילו, the Gemara says in the beginning of Sanhedrin, this is also a person wants the din, and he doesn't want that they should, he wants to get the right din, so what he does in Chutz La'aretz. So he goes to the Anhoge of Yehuda. The Ramban on the Pasuk Lo Yosur Shevet Mi Yehuda in Parshas Vayachi is Marich, a big ariches, and he writes over there Azoy. And it's a tiny on the Chashmonoim. Says the Ramban, in Yonoi, Shelo Yosur Shevet Mi Yehuda el Echod Me Echod. That the Anhoge should be by Yehuda. Ki Malchus Yisrael HaMoishel, Aleim Mimenu Yeh. It has to be Dafke from Shevet Yisrael, Velo Yimshoil Echod Me Echod. There's a Yisrael, someone to rule over Yehuda. Says the Ramban, Ulefi Da'ati, Hoyu HaMelochim of Klal Yisrael, Mishar HaShvotim Achrei David Oivrim al Da'as Aviem, U'ma'avirim Nachlo. ואם היו סויכים על דבר אחי השילויני, הנובי שמושך לירובום ואומר, נעזרה דוד למען, זויס אשר לא כל היום, אך לא כל היומים. וכאשר העריכו ישראל להמליך עליהם משאר השבטים, מלך אחר מלך ולא היו חוזרים במלכוס יהודה, עוברו על צבו הססוקן, ונענשו בו, כמו שאומר ישעיה, הם המליכו ולא ממני. Taka they got punished. That's what the Ramban goes through by Srishan. When there was no kings of Malchei Yehuda, Malchei Yisrael with me. Says the Ramban, let's go to by Sheni to the Chashmonoim. Veze oyo oynesh HaChashmonoim shemolchu by Sheni. Says the Ramban, ki hoyu chasidei elyon, were big tzaddikim Malchei Chashmonoim. Ve'ilmoleihem, says the Ramban, nishtakhu hatoiro ve'amitzvos b'Yisrael. If not the Chashmonoim, we would have forgotten the Torah mitzvahs. Ve'af al pikein, nenshu oynesh godol. כי 4 בני חשמונאי הזוקן, החסידים, המוילכים זה אחר זה, עם כל גבורוסום והצלוחוסום, נופלו בידי אויביהם בחרב. That's what the Ramban says. All of them, the kids of Yerichon Kohen Gadol, they all died. ואף על פי שאויו בזרע שימון אוינש מן הצדוקים, אבל כל זרע מטסיו חשמונאי הצדיק, לא יאהבו אלו בעבור זה, שמולכו ולא יאהבו מזרע יהודה בבייס דוד. והסירו השבט המחוקק לגמרי, ויעונישו מידו כנגד מידו, שהם של הקדוש ברוך הוא עליהם עבדיהם, והם הכריסו, the Gemara in 14. ואפשר גם כן שאויו עליהם חטא במלכות מפני שאויו כהנים ונצטוו תשמרו את כהונסכם לכל דבר המזבח ולבייס לפוריכס ועבדתם אבוידס מתונת אנס כהונסכם ולא יולים לו רק לעבוד אס אבוידס השם. Everyone has his tafkid. שבט לוי have their tafkid, השם הוא נחלוסם. And they took a tafkid that doesn't belong to them. The Beis Hashmonoi, as the Ramban says, there were tzadikei and chasidei elyon, big chasidim, big tzadikim. They saved Klal Yisrael. Af al piken, all of them died with this sin. What sin? Of lo yosu shevet miYehuda u'mechoykek mibein raglov. What is this big sin? Right? As we know, it's a very terrible misa what they had, because we know that Hordus, that he was a slave, he was an eved. He killed the Zerach Hashmonoim. And he killed all of the Zerach Hashmonoim, and that was a terrible thing. Why? Because what was the big chet? What was the big sin? Lo yosu shevet miYehuda. There's one shevet that they have to have the melucha, and that is shevet Yehuda. Beis Hashmonoim took themselves the anoga, and that's the thing. And that's the Ramban explains the sin of the Hashmonoim, because that's what they took it midah keneged midah, and that's the midah. Because that's what they done, and because midah keneged midah, because people who pay them back the punishment, and we can explain that because everything what the Hordus does, it was done midah keneged midah. For they took something that didn't belong to them. Someone else, Eved, took also from them something that didn't belong to him. Azoi zokt the Ramban about Shevet Levi. So we know the Anhog of Shevet Levi has to be Davke Hashem Nachlosom, and this is what we learn about in the Psukim. Shevet Levi did not get the Chelek in Nachlo Eretz Yisrael because, as we said, the job is La'amoidu L'Shoros, as the Ramban says in Parshas Vayechi. And now the Geul of Klal Yisrael, let's not forget, also Ayidei the Hashmonoim, and it's not stam that happened Ayidei Hashmonoim, and this is Davke happened Ayidei Hashmonoim. And let's understand the Anoge, or not Davke the Anoge. Where is the place of Shevet Levi in Klal Yisrael? And what type of Anoge Shevet Levi is leading us at this time? The beginning of the Tkufa of Klal Yisrael. Who was in the beginning the Anoge in the Klal Yisrael? Who was the first Manig in Klal Yisrael? Moshe, Aaron, Miriam. Which Shevet are they? Amram. Amram was a god lador. They stayed in the Gemara and Soited of Yud Beis. He was a Manig. They stayed in the Gemara and Soited of Yud Beis. Who was the Manig Ador? Anoge was Shevet Levi. After the, right, also we could also see after the Gzeir of Kola Ben Ailoid, Ayorot Ashlichu, right? So Paroi sees over there that he was Gozar ala Schorim, was state over there, Vayoyim Melech Mitzrayim Lamiyaldo Iso Ivriyois. Right? Who are the Miyaldo Iso Ivriyois? So the Gemara says, Rav Omar, Kalo V'chamoiso, Elisheva Basa Minodov, and Yechevet. And Shmuel Bar Nachman says, this was Isho Bito, Yechevet and Miriam, Poyo. Right? So if you upon him keneged ovio against Amram, that he was the Rosh Sanhedrin in that time. Paro he says, Omar Amram, Stam. So he went, he was Polish Meishtoi. Right? And then he says, you are going he was going only on the storm, and you are going also on the Nekevis. Right? That's Xerostro, Koshom, Michel, Paro. That's what he says. Omar Ve'erzir. That's what the Medrash. The Medrash is Shmo Yisrabe, Parashe Aleph. Brings this the whole Didut Dvorim between the daughter and her father. Miriam, she is the one she's the one that stands over there in the Geula of Mitzrayim. The Geula starts in Miriam before the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu. She is the one that's Goyrem for Moshe, right? Because Moshe Rabbeinu is born, and then because we see that the whole Geula starts over there with the Geula of Miriam. So the whole Geula, the whole Hanoge, the Mimshala was in the beginning. It was Shevet Levi. Maybe that was the Havamin of Shevet Levi to start. Then only we see that after that thing. Well, so we see over there that when we look at between Shevet Yehuda and Shevet Levi. So if we look at Sefer Divrei Hayomim, and Sefer Divrei Hayomim, what we find it starts from Odom Rishon and finishes in the end of Bais Rishon, right? It's about 3,300 years. The Tkufa of Divrei Hayomim. In the beginning, we being right from Odom Rishon till the Alufim of Bnei Esav, right? In Perek Aleph, we being right? 24 dollars. Then in Perek Base, we bring the Toldos of Klal Yisrael, right? And we don't start lefi the Seder, we start lefi the Chashivas. And that's why we start with Yehuda. Yehuda is the money. Yehuda is the money. And then we have kimat 3 prokim, what we're busy with, Shevet Yehuda. If you look, Mamish, and then we start on Shevet Shimon, right? Then Shevet Reuven, God, few psukim, and then in Perek Hey, we start with Shevet Levi. And that's over here. Shevet Levi is a big arichos from Perek Hey, Pasuk of Zion, till the end of Perek Vov. Also, big arichos about, and then we say Biktzor the rest of the Shvatim. So we see that Shevet Yehuda is the beginning, also long arichos about Shevet Yehuda, and also Shevet Levi, they have a big arichos. If we look at the Chashivas of this, as we know, right? Divrei Yomim brings the Chashivas of Klal. The first Rashi, Divrei Yomim. Right? Why he starts to count to show the Chashivus of the Chashivus of the Yichus. And after that, we start the thing. So we see over there that Shevet Yehuda with Shevet Levi, they have a certain Chashivus. Then we look at Divrei Yomim and Perek Beis, right? We start with Yehuda. Peretz is the Bchor of Yehuda. The Bchor of Yehuda. Chetzon is the Bchor of Peretz. Chetzon has 3 kids. Yerachmiel, Rom, and we're going to see Hashem. This is what we're going to see in the next perek. We're going to see about Kolev. We start Dafke with who? With Rom. When we start the Niches, and we just finished Megillah Sos, that's right. Rom, that is the son of Aminodov, that from him comes out Nachshon, the Nasi of Shevet, Nachshon ben Aminodov, the Nasi of Shevet Yehuda. And then Nachshon, the Salmo Boyaz, David HaMelech, right? And after that, we start about Kolev ben Chetzron. Kolev ben Chetzron, the 3rd son, right? The Kolev ben Chetzron, only there's Azuva. The Gemara says who's Azuva. That's right. Isha ve'es Yeriois ve'ele bono, Yesha ve'shoivo ve'ardoin, ve'tomos Azuva, ve'ikach lo Kolev, it's Ephros. Yeah. And who he has over there then? Hu was the son, right? Hu only this Uri, ve'Uri only this Betzalel. Right? So in the beginning we find Azuva is mentioned as the daughter of Kolev. Holy des Azuva. And after that, Ve'ele Boneo is mashma that is his wife. So the Medrash says the same. The Gemara, it's a Gemara. The Gemara is so the Daf Yud Aleph on base. The Gemara says, "Vayiru ameyaldo yises Elokim." Right? Vayiki yoru ameyaldo Elokim. Vayas lohem botim. So the Gemara says, "Ravu Shmuel chadoma botei Keune, veLevie vechadoma botei Malchus." So lefi the man doma botei Malchus. David Miriam, right? And Vatomos Azuva, who's Azuva? Vaikach Kolev Ephos, right? It's Ephos Ateles Lechu. Who's that? And when do we know that David came from Ephos? David ben Ish Ephos Yazeh, Mi Beis Lechem Yehuda. So Vayaslo Botim is going on both of the Miyaldos. One of them is Shifa, one of them is Pua. Akash Baruch Hu sees that that they are Moisa Nefesh. Vayaslo Botim. What Rabbi Shmuel explain? What's the botim? The botim is Shifra is Yocheved and Pua is Miriam. Bote Keune, Pua is Bote Levi. That means Moshe and Nahon. Bote Malchus, the way Rashi explains is David HaMelech. What comes out of Miriam, because Miriam is Azuva, right? This is just what we explained, and that's Ephros. And Yehuda, the Yehuda has 3 children. Yerachmiel, as we mentioned, the Bchor, but he's mentioned last, right? Because he was not Zoicha the Malchus, and that's why he's mentioned last. Rom and Kolev, they're the second ones. They are continuing the Peretz and Chetzron. Now, when we talk about Rom, only Rom is the one that has the Malchus. And Miriam was married to who? To Kolev. How David HaMelech exactly has to do with her, with Azuva? How exactly Miriam, she married to who? Kolev. Malchus comes out from who? From Rom. So the Maharsha, there's a few terms. The Maharsha says that one of the family of Bnei Rom married a woman from Bnei Kolev. But we do see, one thing we do see over here, that there is a very strong connection. Bote Levi, Bote Malchus. Levi with Yehuda always over there fighting over the Malchus, over the Anhog. So they were the first manhigim in Klal Yisrael, Shevet Levi. But then it goes to Shevet Yehuda. Yehuda HaMaccabi is a famous, and if you look at Sefer Hashmonaim, I don't know how Musmach, or yes Musmach or not, if we have over there the famous Battle of Ameos, yeah, the Battle of Ameos. So the Yehuda Maccabee, there's more down that, right, why Dafka and Chanukah, someone, right, we see that Shevet Levi is the ones that are leading the battle and not Shevet Yehuda. Yehuda Maccabee, when he shouts out before the battle, what he shouts out, the Battle of Ameos, I think it's called, Amaos, and it was in Latron. It's called today Latron. Over there was the battle, and he says over there, don't be scared of many of them. Don't all kinds of leshoidas from them. And he says, remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved us on Yam Suf from Paroi with all his things, and we got up. So get up and shout HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he is going to give us chesed v'rachamim, and he's going to remember also the briso yasher koras esaviseinu, and he's going to get rid of all of the army of the Greek, and everyone should know that everyone in Ma'an Yedu, he says over there, kulom ki Hashem hu Elokim apoides Yisrael mikol tzoroiso. This is the Yehuda HaMaccabee, right? These are hemshech of Mamesh's, the hemshech of the Anhoge of which Hanoge? The Hanoge of Shevet Yehuda. Yehuda, what was in Yam Suf? Let's not forget. Nachshon ben Aminadab jumps in. Yehuda Maccabee. So we could see over here that Shevet Levi, with Shevet Yehuda is also we having over here. Now, when we start the Chalukah now of the Emet Hashem, we're going to start next week to learn the Chalukah and Kapitel Yudaled. We can see who is the first to be. So we start now with what Moshe Rabbeinu, right? And then we start with Moshe Rabbeinu, Ula Shevet Levi lo nosa Moshe. So we start with Shevet Levi. We start with the 2.5 Shvatim. But when we go to the 9.5 Shvatim in Eretz Yisrael, in the west side of the Jordan, we start with Yehuda. Again, we start with Yehuda because they are the manhigim of Klal Yisrael. Fine. Okay, so we're going to stop over here, Emet Hashem. And Emet Hashem next week, Emet Hashem, we're going to start the Kapitel Yudaled, the Nachlis.